Every trader starts with a belief that they can outsmart the charts, that they can read the market, that every choice they make is logical. That belief is fragile. Most people think the danger is obvious: sudden crashes, unexpected liquidations, coins losing value in minutes. These are visible threats, easy to notice, easy to blame. But that is not the real danger. The real danger is quieter, invisible, far more persistent than any red candle on a chart. It begins the moment you make your first trade, not with a loss, not with an error. It begins with your mind, bending your choices without your knowledge. Each small win feels like proof of skill. Each tiny gain feels like confirmation that you are capable, that you understand the market. But that sense of confidence is the first step toward a trap you cannot see. The market does not care about beginners. It does not care about experience. It does not care if you succeed or fail. What the market does care about is how your mind reacts to it, how your emotions respond, how your decisions are slowly guided by forces that are completely invisible, and yet their consequences are absolute. Think about the moment you clicked buy or sell yesterday. Did you do it because of logic, or because something inside you wanted a reward, a quick gain, a rush of excitement? The line between rational trading and unconscious reaction is thinner than you imagine, and crossing it is far easier than you think. You might think you are in control. You watch charts, you follow news, you make careful plans. But the market doesn't need to manipulate you directly. You do it yourself. With each click, with each trade, with each emotional response, your decisions begin to drift away from reason. And the strangest part, most traders will never realize it is happening. They will blame losses on the market, on luck, on timing. But in truth, the market is simply reflecting the patterns of your own choices, your overconfidence, your impulses, your fear of missing out. Imagine this. You make a trade, it goes in your favor. A small win, you feel smart, you feel capable. You make another and another. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the market starts to guide you, not by moving prices, not by sending signals, but by shaping your own behavior. Every gain reinforces the habits that will later cost you everything. By the time you notice, the subtle changes are already entrenched. Your decisions are no longer fully your own. You begin to chase outcomes, not strategy. You begin to react emotionally rather than act deliberately. And the market watches, waiting, patient, silent, knowing that most traders will reach this point long before any chart shows red. This is what most people will never admit, that the greatest danger is not losing a trade. It is losing the way you think. It is the way the market trains your mind, reshaping your instincts, conditioning you to act in ways that feel rational, but are actually setting you up for loss after loss. And yet, this danger is invisible. You cannot point to it. You cannot measure it with charts. You cannot defend against it with technical indicators. It is inside you, and if you ignore it, it will define the path of your trading career. It will quietly, patiently dismantle your discipline, your patience, your judgment. And before you realize it, every decision you make is already influenced by it. If you have ever felt a sudden urge to enter a trade, to chase a small win, to ignore your own rules, this is it. This is the moment the market begins to guide you without you noticing. And the most frightening part? Most traders never recover from this conditioning. If you think a single liquidation is your worst fear, you are already too late to realize the invisible threat. Because by the time a red candle appears on your screen, the decisions that caused it have been quietly forming for weeks, for months, in the way you respond, in the way you click, in the way you feel. And this is why most traders disappear. Not with noise, not with a dramatic failure. They disappear silently, quietly, because their own choices, once subtle, now control their fate entirely. Stay with this video, because what follows will uncover the truths that almost no one admits. the lessons that separate those who survive from those who are quietly lost to the market forever. You think you're in control. You're sitting still. Your screen is quiet. Nothing dramatic is happening. But control doesn't disappear loudly. It fades. And most traders never notice the moment it leaves. Because the most dangerous part of trading doesn't happen when the account drops. It happens earlier, much earlier. The market doesn't rush you. It waits. It lets you believe you have time. It lets you believe you're thinking clearly. And while you're watching the chart, something else is already happening. Your attention narrows. Your awareness shrinks. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Core truth. What the market really targets. The market does not attack wallets. It doesn't need to. It attacks decision-making. Every candle is a test. Every small move is a question. Will you wait, or will you react? And the moment you react without realizing why, the outcome is no longer yours. The body reacts first. You think you're calm, but your body is already responding. Your breathing shifts. Your jaw tightens. Your hand rests on the mouse longer than it should. You don't notice these changes because they feel normal. That's what makes them dangerous. The illusion of control. Most traders believe control is a decision. It's not. Control is a condition, and conditions change under pressure. You don't lose control all at once. You lose it in pieces. One rushed click, one ignored rule, one trade taken, just this time. The decision is already made. Your heart rate decides before your logic does. Not because you're emotional, but because speed changes priority. When the market moves quickly, the brain stops analyzing and starts protecting. Protecting ego, protecting hope, protecting the idea that this trade has to work. That's when discipline becomes optional. Uncomfortable fact. This is why losses feel confusing afterward. You replay the trade and think, I knew better, and you did. But knowledge wasn't in charge at that moment. Pressure was. When the chart changes you, the chart doesn't move to show opportunity. It moves to create urgency. Urgency shortens patience. Urgency compresses judgment. Suddenly, waiting feels risky. Doing nothing feels wrong. And that's when mistakes feel justified. The internal shift. The trade stops being about execution. It becomes about relief. Relief from uncertainty. Relief from doubt. Relief from the discomfort of waiting. And once relief becomes the goal, discipline collapses quietly. Why this happens to everyone. This doesn't happen to bad traders. It happens to focused ones, to ambitious ones, to people who care. The more attention you give the market, the more power it has to influence your state, and influence is all it needs. The moment you can't see, there is a moment where the trade is already lost, but the account still looks fine. That's the moment most people miss, because nothing has gone wrong yet, but behavior has changed, and behavior always moves before results do. The acceleration. A small move turns into a larger one. Red candles appear faster now. The screen feels louder even without sound. You tell yourself to wait. You tell yourself to stick to the plan. But the plan feels distant, abstract. What feels real is the movement happening right now. Cold and direct. The market doesn't need to beat you. It just needs you to stop waiting. Once that happens, the rest is automatic. Self-reflection. Pause for a moment. Think back to your worst trade, not the loss, the moment before it, the moment where something inside shifted, and you acted without fully knowing why. That wasn't bad luck. That was the invisible enemy taking the lead. Warning without drama. This is why traders don't fail suddenly. They drift. They adapt to pressure without realizing what it's costing them, and by the time they notice, the habits are already formed. Strong, quiet end. And this is only the first layer, because once emotional control weakens, what comes next doesn't just affect one trade, it affects every decision after it. and most traders never realize when that change becomes permanent. Long pause. That's where things truly start to fall apart. The most dangerous moment in trading is not when you lose, it's when nothing goes wrong. Because success doesn't always arrive as a reward. Sometimes it arrives as a test, and most traders fail it without realizing they're being tested at all. Pause. This is how it begins, step by step. It starts small, $100, nothing serious, nothing to fear, just a few trades, a few clicks, a few decisions that seem to work. The first trade closes green, then another, then a third, 3 wins, and suddenly the screen feels different. You don't celebrate loudly, you just sit back slightly. Your shoulders relax, your breathing slows, a quiet thought appears. Maybe I understand this. That thought is never challenged, because the account agrees with it. This is where the confusion begins. The market didn't reward skill, it rewarded timing. But the mind doesn't separate the two, it connects them. And once that connection is made, something changes. Rules feel less urgent, checks feel repetitive, patience feels unnecessary. You still know the rules, you just don't feel the need to follow them as strictly. You enter faster, you exit later, you size up slightly. Nothing breaks immediately. That's the problem, because nothing reinforces bad behavior better than short-term success. Early wins are dangerous, not because they make you reckless, but because they make you confident without proof. They convince you that luck is skill, and that repetition means mastery. It feels earned, it feels logical, it feels real. The checklist stays unopened. The stop is placed mentally. The risk feels manageable. In theory, you don't feel greedy, you feel capable, and that makes this stage extremely hard to escape. Then the market shifts, not dramatically, not aggressively, just enough. A green candle stalls, another pulls back. You wait, because waiting worked before, but this time, the screen doesn't reward patience. The silence. The trade closes red, not catastrophic, just uncomfortable, and something important happens here. The sound in your head changes. The confidence doesn't disappear, it stiffens. You tell yourself it's normal. One loss doesn't erase skill. This is where the damage forms, not in the loss, but in the response. You want to get back to the feeling you just had, so you trade again, not recklessly, purposefully. The next trade doesn't work either. Green turns to red, the account pulls back faster than it climbed, and now the silence is heavier because the screen is no longer confirming the story you told yourself. Documentary truth. Most accounts don't collapse after losses. They collapse after confidence. Confidence that wasn't tested. Confidence that wasn't earned under pressure. Confidence built in calm conditions. Too late for many. You look back at the earlier trades. You see how clean they were, how simple they felt, and you wonder where that clarity went. It didn't leave, it was replaced by expectation. Be honest, did your worst losses come after your best wins? Pause. Most traders already know the answer. This is why early success is not relief, it's exposure, because what comes next doesn't test the market, it tests restraint, and most traders don't realize that test has started until the account reminds them. Long pause, and this is only the beginning of the problem. Most traders don't lose when the market turns against them. They lose at the exact moment they feel sure. One click, one decision that feels smart, and a silence that follows. This isn't about charts moving the wrong way. It's about trusting a moment that never cared who you were. A trader watches the screen. Red candles fall in order. The balance shrinks, slowly, politely. No panic yet, just belief, because the loss looks temporary, and confidence feels deserved. That's where it begins. Crypto doesn't destroy accounts with chaos, it does it with calm. If you've ever felt comfortable just before a loss, this is for you. Ignore this truth, and the market will repeat it until you understand. By the end of this, you'll see why smart people lose money while convinced they're doing everything right. It starts with a win, then another. The mind connects success to skill. Risk feels smaller than it is. Position size grows. Rules loosen. The trader isn't reckless. They're confident. Then the chart hesitates, pulls back, moves again. The loss arrives quietly. It will recover. That thought becomes the next mistake. A new trade opens, bigger, cleaner, more certain. But the market doesn't see confidence. It sees exposure. Candles accelerate. The balance tightens. A phone vibrates. Margin warning. The trader freezes. Have you felt this moment before? After liquidation, there's no noise, no anger, just stillness. Numbers where certainty used to live. Regret doesn't scream, it settles. Not because the trade failed, but because risk was ignored. Then comes the search for answers. Listening to confident voices online. Following certainty that feels safer than doubt. Breakouts are chased. Stops are pushed aside. It feels informed. It feels guided. Later you'll understand why platforms thrive when traders feel sure of themselves. For now, remember this. Crypto rewards patience quietly and punishes urgency without warning. Every loss feels personal, but none of them are. The market doesn't remember your plan. It doesn't care about recovery. Another trade opens. Another reason sounds logical. Before the next candle forms, ask yourself, are you trading the market or defending a belief? And now, be honest. Which moment in this story felt familiar to you? If you've made any of these mistakes, comment, "I learned the hard way." Your comment might be the reason someone else stops before the silence does.